I had been in the Kuwaiti desert long enough to understand that nothing stays still out there. The wind eats everything. Tracks vanish in minutes, sometimes seconds, erased by a single breath of shifting sand. Even armored vehicle prints that weigh more than any man can imagine get wiped clean before nightfall. That is why what we found out there, what my squad stumbled onto in the dead center of that empty wasteland, felt wrong in a way that still scrapes at the back of my skull after all these years. We were part of a late summer reconnaissance sweep ordered late in the cycle, a routine route meant to reassure command that nothing had slipped past the outer cordon. Kuwait had been quiet since the 90s, too quiet for some of the old-timers who still expected trouble to crawl up out of the dunes without warning. I was a staff sergeant then, running a hardened little squad that had walked enough miles together to read each other's breathing. We were good, disciplined, and unshakable. Or, at least, that is what I believed when that morning began. The sun was already brutal when we rolled out, beating down on the horizon like a molten hammer. The kind of heat that blurs vision and makes the world ripple as if you are staring at it through a window of boiling water. We were half a day into the patrol when the radio crackled with static. Nothing new in that region, but enough to make everyone glance at their deer. We kept moving, grinding across a patch of flat desert large enough to swallow an entire convoy without leaving a single feature behind. I had just raised my canteen when Private Elson, trailing a few steps behind, called out to me in a voice too uncertain for a soldier who had seen combat. "Rebel, you need to see this." His tone made me turn before he even finished. I walked back, boots crunching on sun-baked crust, and found him standing over something half-buried but unmistakable. A footprint, clear as if the boot had just pressed down seconds before. Not a fresh coalition print, not a worker's. No tread from any model we carried, no signature we'd seen in Kuwait since we arrived. I crouched low, brushing sand away with my glove, and my breath stalled. The print was deep, sharp-edged, and perfectly preserved, like a photograph etched into the desert itself. The pattern caught my eye instantly. It belonged to a standard-issue Marine combat boot from the early 1970s. I felt a strange tightening in my chest, because that alone made no sense. Nothing from that year should have survived a single desert storm, much less decades of them. The desert devours everything. But this print looked like it had been made moments before we stepped up to it. And then Elson pointed out another. 10 steps away, another one, then another, a trail beginning to form. I waved the squad in, and they gathered around the forming line of footprints with growing unease. Corporal Hensley knelt beside the second print and swore softly. "These are Marine Corps issue," he said. "Early pattern, Vietnam era." He paused, squinting through the heat. "No one has worn boots like this since 1972. Hensley came from a long line of service. He knew gear the way priests know scripture. That is why what he said next froze something deep in me. These matched the unit lost in 72, the one they never found in the southern Gulf corridor. I stared at him, waiting for the joke. But his expression didn't move. I knew exactly the event he referenced. Every Marine does. A reconnaissance team in 1972 vanished during a covert survey. Their last transmission scrambled, their last coordinates wrong by miles. The desert was searched for weeks. Nothing. No gear, no bodies, no footprints. And yet here they were in front of us, prints so sharp they looked alive. I felt the wind shift over the dunes, a low, warm gust that should have blown the edges of the impressions apart. But nothing changed. Not even a grain of sand moved. It was as if the prints were immune to the environment around them, locked in place. Preserved by something stronger than weather, the desert around us hummed with silence, the kind of thick, breathless quiet that feels staged, like the world is holding still, watching you. I radioed to command, keeping my voice steady, reporting the discovery as unusual impressions. I knew better than to say what they truly were. The last thing I needed was some rear officer dismissing us as dehydrated. Command told us to document, verify, and track the impressions as far as safely possible. So we placed our own boots beside the ancient ones and began following the trail. Each step deeper into the desert felt like walking into a story we should not have touched. The print stayed perfect, evenly spaced, consistent. No signs of panic, no signs of running. Whatever Marine had walked here, he had been calm, moving with purpose. But purpose toward what? And how had his footsteps survived more than 30 years of storms when even tank tracks vanish under a single night of drifting sand? As we moved, the wind rose again, strong enough to sting the skin, strong enough to tear at our clothes, but still the ancient footprints remained untouched. Private Elson whispered the words we were all thinking. This is not possible. He did not say it dramatically. He said it like someone admitting gravity had stopped working. We kept moving, following the strange, immaculate path across the open desert. Hours felt heavier. The air thickened. A strange tension crept into the squad's posture, like they were bracing for something they could not name. The prints continued in a perfect line until the trail reached a shallow basin carved by years of storms. And that is where everything shifted. The prints doubled, then tripled, then spread out into chaotic patterns, like the Marines had suddenly clustered together. Some turned sharply, some circled, some overlapped, all still perfect, all still untouched. It was as if an entire squad had gathered here in one moment, then vanished. Right there, in the dead middle of an empty basin, the footprints converged and ended. No continuation, no retreat, no scattering outward. Just a dead stop, like they walked into a wall of nothing and never returned. Before anyone could speak, the radio crackled, louder this time, filled with a warbling distortion that crawled up my spine. A voice bled through it, weak, distant, like someone speaking from underwater. My name, my call sign, spoken by a voice that should have been long dead. And when I turned back toward the basin floor, the wind died completely. The world froze, and the sand beneath those ancient footprints began to tremble. The trembling began softly at first, so subtle that I thought it was just heat rippling through the sand. But then the vibration deepened, rolling beneath my boots like something shifting far under the surface, something enormous and slow waking from a long sleep. The squad instinctively spread out, rifles raised, eyes scanning the basin walls for movement. But nothing moved, nothing lived. Not even a bird dared cross the sky above us. The world felt suspended, frozen in a moment that had no right to exist. I took a step toward the cluster of ancient footprints, and the trembling stopped instantly, as if whatever was beneath us was listening, or waiting. I crouched and brushed a hand over the nearest impression, the one that overlapped two others. The sand was cool, much cooler than desert sand should ever be in that heat. A chill radiated from the print, like the ground had never warmed in that spot, like it was locked in the moment it had been made decades earlier. Corporal Hensley stood behind me. "Sergeant," he said quietly, "you see how deep these are? Whoever made this, they were carrying weight, packs, gear, full kit." I nodded. "Then where is it now?" He didn't answer. The rest of the squad gathered in a loose semicircle around the center of the basin. Every set of prints told the same story. The Marines had walked into this exact spot, paused, shifted positions as if forming a perimeter, and then simply vanished. No drag marks, no collapse, no sign of an ambush. Nothing natural, nothing human, just a sudden absence. I felt the tightness growing in my throat, the kind that comes from instinct screaming warnings your mind refuses to process. The radio crackled again, louder, sharper. A single word forced its way through the static. "Rebel." Not my name, not the name of any of my men, my call sign. And hearing it out here, over a squad radio still too new to have ghosts, made my skin crawl. The voice had a warped echo, stretched thin as if it traveled an impossible distance. Private Elson stepped closer, whispering, "That voice, that sounded like old contact, like a tape." But it had not sounded like a recording. It sounded alive. The squad waited for me to speak. I forced myself to stay calm, lifting my binoculars to scan the southern ridge, then the western dunes. Nothing, no movement, no heat signatures. The horizon shimmered in silence, but something gnawed at me. The footprints formed a rough circle, and in the exact center was a faint rectangular shape beneath the sand. Edges too straight to be natural, corners too precise. Motions of the men. Together we brushed away sand in steady, careful strokes until a metallic surface emerged beneath, bronze-colored, weathered, cold to the touch. "What the hell is this?" Elson muttered. The plate was about the size of a manhole cover but thicker, heavier, embedded into the earth like it had been there for generations. No markings, no bolts, no seams. Just smooth, ancient metal sitting in the middle of a basin filled with footprints from 1972. The air thickened the moment we uncovered the final corner. It wasn't imagination. It was pressure, real pressure, like standing just inside a sealed room while someone slowly lowers the air. The hairs on my arms rose. My vision flickered for just a second, as if a shadow had passed directly across my eyes. Hensley knelt, brushing the metal with his knuckles. "Feels wrong," he murmured. "Not corroded, not hot, not cold. It's just dead." Before I could respond, the radio hissed again, louder, clearer this time. A voice breaking through like a man calling from inside a tunnel. "Request, evac. This is Lima Squad. Position lost. Repeat, lost." My heart hammered. Lima Squad, those were the call letters of the Marine reconnaissance team that disappeared in 1972. They were the last words ever recorded from that unit. And now they were playing through our radio, as if the transmission had just been made seconds before. The men stepped back instinctively, eyes wide, breath catching. "Sergeant," Elson whispered, "that cannot be real. They have been gone for decades." I forced myself to answer, "I know," but the truth was heavier. The transmission wasn't just similar, it was identical. Every syllable, every break, every strained gasp. I knew because I had heard the archival recording years earlier during training sessions about Gulf anomalies. But now it wasn't coming from a file. It was coming from somewhere beneath us. I knelt beside the metal plate, pressing my hand flat against it. And that was the moment I felt it, a pulse. A slow, rhythmic vibration deep in the metal, almost like a heartbeat. I jerked my hand back. "Everyone step away from the plate," I ordered. "Now." They obeyed instantly, forming a perimeter around it. But the moment we backed up, the sand around the plate shifted, subtle at first, like something was moving directly underneath it. Then the metal surface began to warm, not from sunlight, from inside. It radiated upward in a steady, unnatural wave. Corporal Hensley cursed. "Sergeant, you seeing this?" A faint mist was rising from the metal, thin, shimmering vapor that behaved nothing like heat distortion. It lifted in straight columns, weightless, drifting upward without bending to the wind. Except, the wind had vanished. Again, the basin had turned into a vacuum of stillness, as if something had sealed us off from the rest of the desert. Then, far across the dunes, a ripple shuddered through the air, a distortion bending the horizon like a sheet of glass flexing under pressure. Elson gasped, pointing. "That's the same effect they described in the old case files." Hensley shot him a look. "You read those?" "Yeah," Elson said. "And this is exactly what they saw before the team went dark." I didn't need his reminder. I already knew. Everything we were seeing, everything we were hearing, it matched the final reports from the 1972 incident. Down to the unnatural stillness, down to the missing gear, down to the desert swallowing sound. And now, for the first time in almost 40 years, the phenomenon was waking up again. The men looked to me. I had to make a call, retreat or investigate. Both felt wrong, both felt suicidal. But then the metal plate vibrated again, harder this time, and a faint sound drifted from beneath it, a muffled thump, like a fist hitting a door from the other side. Hensley froze. "Sergeant," he whispered, "tell me that was the wind." But there was no wind. We were standing inside in ancient silence. Another thump, louder, that a dragging sound like boots scraping against metal far below. The squad tensed, weapons rising, breaths held tight. Elson stepped closer to me, staring down at the plate. "What if they're down there?" he asked. "What if that squad never died?" I didn't answer at first, because the thought wasn't hopeful. It was terrifying. If they were down there, then something had kept them alive for nearly 4 decades. Something that existed beneath the desert. Something that left this metal plate as the only doorway. And whatever had taken them, it might have been waking up. I opened my mouth to give the order to fall back. But before the words could leave my lips, the radio surged with a deafening blast of static, and a final message tore through the speaker. A voice ragged, desperate, and impossibly close. "Rebel, do not open it. We made a mistake." Then silence. And beneath our feet, the metal plate lurched, like something was trying to come through. The plate lurched beneath our boots with a force that felt nothing like shifting sand. It was deliberate, purposeful, like the movement of a thing responding to a signal we could not hear. The squad staggered back instinctively, boots digging into the basin floor. weapons up, eyes wide. For one long, breathless moment, the metal stayed still, humming with that low, unnatural vibration we had felt earlier. Then the air around us changed again. Not the temperature, not the pressure, something deeper, like stepping into a room where someone had just been speaking, their words still hanging in the air. The desert felt occupied. Ensley's voice cracked through the silence. "Sergeant, this is not a trapdoor. This is something else." He wasn't wrong. Trapdoors rust, they corrode, they show their age. But this thing, whatever this plate was, had no weathering, no scoring, no sand damage. It looked untouched by time, as if it had been placed here not 40 years ago, but 40 seconds ago. I took a step closer, and the sand around the plate seemed to shift away from my boot on its own. Just a fraction, just enough to be noticed. Like the ground itself was reacting to my presence. None of it made sense. The Marine squad from 1972 had vanished in a sandstorm, with no tracks, no gear, no final coordinates that matched anything in the region. And yet here we were, standing at the center of a perfect circle of their preserved footprints, staring at a metal plate that felt like a sealed heartbeat buried beneath the earth. The radio hissed softly, like static breathing. No voice this time. No message. Just a low, steady pulse of interference that synced with the faint vibration coming from the metal. And then a realization hit me, one that turned my stomach cold. The radio wasn't receiving interference, it was receiving proximity. The closer we got to the plate, the stronger the pulse became, like the thing beneath us was trying to talk through the equipment. Elson swallowed hard. "Sergeant, permission to fall back to the ridge and call in higher support?" I almost said yes. Every instinct screamed for it. But something held me in place. Not curiosity, not bravery, something else, something older. Because deep down, I felt it. The Marines from 1972 had not just vanished, they had gone somewhere. And this basin, this plate, these untouched footprints, they were pointing to that somewhere. And if we left now, without understanding what we were standing on, someone else would stumble onto this place eventually. Someone less prepared. Someone who wouldn't know to run. I took a slow breath. We do not fall back yet. We document everything. No one touches the plate. The men nodded reluctantly, spreading out to capture photos, measure distances, mark the orientation of the prints. But every gadget we used, GPS, laser rangefinder, even the old analog compass, twitched or died within seconds. The compass needle spun like a trapped insect, refusing to settle. The GPS screen glitched, scrambled lines replacing coordinates. Even the hardened military camera froze the moment Hensley tried to snap a picture. Electronics were failing one after another, except the radio. The radio stayed alive. Too alive. As we worked, that haunting pulse grew sharper, closer, more insistent, like a heartbeat trying to sync with our own. Then came the sound. A faint metallic scraping from beneath the plate, slow and rhythmic, like someone dragging the heel of a boot across a metal floor. Scrape, pause, scrape, pause. The sound echoed through the basin, vibrating in the sand, traveling through our bones. Hensley went pale. "That's boots," he whispered. "That's someone walking underneath us." The idea hit everyone at once. The Marine squad wasn't gone. They were sealed under this plate. Maybe alive, maybe dead, maybe something else. I forced myself to kneel again, lowering my ear to the metal. The surface was warm, pulsing, alive with motion. And beneath it, beneath maybe 10 inches of metal, I heard it clearly. Footsteps. Heavy, slow, intentional. Not pacing, not stumbling. Walking in a circle. Then a second sound joined it. Soft exhaling breaths, slow and ragged. Not human tiredness, human effort. Like someone trying to speak, but unable to force words out. Elson took a step back. "Sergeant, what if they're trapped down there? What if they've been down there since 1972? But that was impossible. No food, no water, no air, no reason for any human to survive, even a day. And yet the sounds beneath us continued. Steady, patient, deliberate. I leaned closer. If they are alive, they are not alive in any way we understand. That truth hit the squad like a punch. None of us said it aloud, but we all felt it. Whatever had taken the Marines had not let them die. It had kept them, preserved them, maybe fed on them. maybe used them. A sudden metallic knock hit the underside of the plate. Sharp, direct, unmistakably intentional. Like someone signaling us. Then again, 3 knocks this time. Slow, even, deliberate. The squad froze. Not one of us breathed. We had all heard the old Marine distress pattern, the one used when radios were dead and only sound could travel. 3 knocks, pause. 3 knocks, pause. 3 knocks. But before any of us could react, the radio snapped to life again. This time not with the ghostly voice from before, but with a new one. Deeper, calmer, terrifyingly close. Rebel. Open. Door. The voice wasn't distorted. It wasn't old. It wasn't decayed by decades. It sounded like a man speaking from a foot away. Hensley swore under his breath. That's a human voice, a living one. But I knew what my instincts told me. That voice didn't belong to any human man alive on Earth. Not anymore. Sand around the plate began shifting again, much more violently this time, like something was pressing upward from below, pushing the ground aside. The mist rising from the plate thickened, turning into curling tendrils that drifted upward like smoke from a cold fire. The basin shadow deepened, even though there were no clouds, no movement in the sky, no change in the sun. Just a thickening darkness, like color was draining out of the world around us. Elson whispered the words none of us wanted to hear. "Sergeant, what if they want us to open it?" I locked eyes with him. Or what if whatever took them wants out? The thumping grew louder, more frantic, more desperate, more desperate. Boots scraping, knuckles pounding, something dragging, something breathing. The radio hissed louder, the voice trying to form words through layers of static and dread. Rebel, hurry, before it, then silence, sharp and absolute. The plate lurched again, harder than before, and then, right in front of us, a long crack split across the metal, thin at first, then widening, revealing blackness beneath. Not darkness, blackness. A void, a place with no depth, no end, no light. And inside that impossible darkness, something moved. The crack across the metal plate widened with a grinding shriek that didn't sound like metal tearing. It sounded like something resisting, something pulling back from the other side, something that did not want to let go of whatever was inside. The squad stumbled backward, boots skidding across sand that suddenly felt too loose, too alive under our feet. The air around us thickened, not from heat, but from pressure, as if an invisible hand was pressing down on our lungs. I watched the dark slit widen, watched the blackness inside it pulse like it had a rhythm of its own. Elson's voice broke the silence, trembling. "Sergeant, there's something behind that crack." He was right. There was movement, slow, deliberate movement, like something shifting its weight, preparing to rise. A soft scraping echoed from the depths, the unmistakable drag of a boot sole across metal. Then another. Then a slow inhale, ragged and wet, like air passing through lungs that hadn't taken a breath since 1972. The sound froze every one of us in place. I raised my rifle toward the widening opening, and the rest of the squad followed without meeting in order. The crack deepened with another violent jolt, sand bursting outward as the plate bowed upward in the center. Hensley cursed under his breath. "Something's lifting it from the inside." The plate bent another inch, then another. Then the seam split open completely, peeling back like the lid of a coffin forced open from within. The temperature dropped instantly, so sharply that steam rose from our gear, from our breath, from the sand itself. Kuwaiti desert heat evaporated in a single unnatural exhale, replaced by a cold that felt ancient and wrong. I stepped forward, slow and steady, weapon locked on the widening void. The darkness inside wasn't absence of light, it was presence, a dense, living blackness that looked back at you. Something shifted inside that void, and the basin echoed with the sound of a heavy footstep landing on metal, then another, then a third, slow, steady, rhythmic. A gait drilled into every Marine during training, a cadence impossible to forget. The cadence of a unit on patrol. Hensley whispered, "That's their march pattern. That's the 1972 recon step." His voice shook. He wasn't wrong. It was perfect. Too perfect. Like the footsteps of men who had been walking the same circle beneath that plate for decades, never tiring, never collapsing, never dying. The darkness swirled, and for a moment, a shape emerged, a silhouette of a man, shoulders broad, helmet low, gear strapped tight, exactly the outline of a Marine from that era. But something was wrong with the posture, too stiff, too slow, too controlled, like a puppet moved by someone who had only seen humans through broken glass. The figure stepped forward until its boots touched the underside of the crack. And when the first sliver of sunlight struck its foot, the shadow recoiled violently, jerking back as if burned. The void swallowed it again. Elson exhales shakily. It doesn't want the white. That was when the radio crackled again, loud enough to make us flinch. "Rebel," the voice gasped, raw and shredded. "Do not let it out. We are not what we were." The voice broke, dissolving into I will say indeed the radio for funds, and this wasn't great. The Marines were down there, or something using their voices, something imitating them, something that had learned their shape, their sounds, their cadence. The plate buckled upward again, violently this time, throwing a sheet of sand across the basin. The crack widened into a jagged opening nearly 2 feet across. Cold vapor poured out of it in long tendrils, creeping across the ground like living fog. I grabbed Elson's shoulder. "Back up, all of you. Do not let anything touch that fog." The men moved in a tight, tense line, rifles fixed, eyes locked on a black opening, as if expecting a hand, or something like a hand, to claw its way up. The fog curled across the basin floor, swirling around the ancient footprints, and then something horrifying happened. The footprints began to deepen, as if someone invisible was stepping into them. One by one, in perfect sequence, the impressions pressed further into the sand, like the Marines from 1972 were retracing their own steps from inside the earth. The ground thudded with each phantom step. Then a voice, clear, human, young, spoke from inside the crack. "Sergeant Mills, requesting extract." The hairs on my arms rose. Mills had been the squad leader of the lost unit. He was 28 in 1972. His voice should have been older, rasped, seasoned, but the voice calling out from the darkness was untouched by time, frozen, preserved, perfect, wrong. "Rubble," the voice continued. "We made contact with. It stopped, not because interference cut in, but because the speaker seemed to forget the word. The voice repeated, again and again, trying to remember. Contact with. The repetition turned mechanical, digital, inhuman. I raised my hand. The squad froze. Something was rising from the crack, slowly, pushing against the edges. A hand emerged first, but it wasn't skin, it wasn't metal. It wasn't bone. It was a perfect human glove, empty, shaped by something inside it that had never seen a human being up close. The fingers flexed with a grotesque ripple, bending too smoothly, too evenly, with no joints. The glove, if it was a glove, pressed against the basin floor, feeling the sand like a blind creature learning texture for the first time. Then another hand nudged. Then a helmet, Marine issue, 1972 pattern, pulled upward by something that didn't breathe. The thing climbed, inch by inch, revealing a torso covered in pristine service gear, gear untouched by time. Gear that should have eroded decades ago. But the shape inside the uniform wasn't human. It was too stiff, too symmetrical, too empty. The figure stood half emerged from the crack, head tilted, like it was studying us, copying us, mimicking our postures, learning. Elson whispered, "Sergeant, that is not a Marine." The figure turned toward his voice with an unnatural snap, head rotating further than any human neck could. And in the hollow darkness inside the helmet, two faint glints appeared, like eyes adjusting to the world above. Then it stepped forward, one boot rising from the crack. And when it placed that boot on the desert floor, the sand beneath it hissed, freezing instantly. That was when I realized the truth we had been trying not to face. The Marines hadn't survived down there. They had been replaced, or replicated, or hollowed out. And now one of those things, one of those perfect, impossible impersonations, was climbing out of its dark cradle into our world. I raised my rifle. Do not let it clear the plate. I ordered. If it gets out, nothing in this desert will be the same again. The figure paused, as if listening. Then it took another step upward. Sand cracked beneath its weight, and behind it, deeper in the void, dozens of other footsteps began moving. Many. Too many. All marching in unison, all coming toward the crack. We were out of time. The creature, if I can even call it that, dragged itself higher through the widening crack, its movements too smooth and too precise for anything that had ever worn a human uniform. The upper half of its body leaned into the light, and I finally saw into the helmet's darkness. Nothing alive stared back. No skin, no reflection, no human outline, just an endless black interior, like the helmet was a doorway instead of a shell. A doorway to wherever those Marines had gone all those decades ago. The figure cocked its head with a jolt, studying each of us as though trying to memorize our shapes. Then its boots scraped the metal plate again, triggering a sound that made the basin vibrate, an awful hollow resonance that felt like it was shaking loose a memory the desert had been trying to forget. Behind it, deeper inside the darkness, those countless synchronized steps grew louder. A whole unit marching in a place that should not exist. I could feel the vibrations rising through the sand, through my boots, through the bones in my legs. The men tightened their formation around me, forming a half circle as the thing stepped 1 inch further out of the crack. "Sergeant," Hensley whispered, "if it gets free, we lose this whole region, maybe more." He wasn't talking about a tactical loss, not a firefight, not a military setback. He meant something else, something existential, something that shouldn't breathe our air or walk our soil. I nodded slowly, lifting my rifle. "We hold this line. Nothing clears that plate." The creature froze as if listening, not to us, but to something beneath the sand. Then its posture shifted, its body trying to imitate ease, like a person pretending to relax but not understanding how bones move or how weight shifts. It planted one gloved hand on the basin floor. The glove flexed, but the fingers moved wrong, too even, bending in perfect symmetry. It was a hollow copy of human anatomy, something guessing at what hands were supposed to feel like. I signaled to the squad to spread their positions. Rifles leveled, triggers half squeezed. The figure turned again, drawn to the smallest sound, Elson's heartbeat, loud and terrified. It tilted its head with an unsettling crack, like cartilage snapping. Then it mimicked the sound back at us, repeating the thump of Elson's pulse through the helmet darkness. I fired the first shot. The round hit the left shoulder with a muted thud, too muted, no flesh, no bone. The recoil felt normal, but the impact on the creature didn't. Instead of staggering backward, the thing absorbed the round like sand swallowing water. The uniform rippled slightly, like something thick and liquid moved inside it. The figure slowly turned its helmet toward me. No reaction, no pain, no understanding of what had just happened. I fired again, center mass this time. The round punched through, exiting from the creature's back. A puff of black dust drifted out like smoke. The hole sealed instantly. "That's not stopping it," Hensley warned. He fired next. 2 shots, then 3. We all opened up. Dust and black vapor filled the air around the thing, but it kept climbing, untouched, unnatural, unstoppable. Then, it stepped fully onto the sand. The ground beneath its boot cracked like thin ice, frost racing outward through the grains of the basin floor. The sand froze solid in a spreading circle, locking ancient footprints inside a ring of cold. The creature straightened, or tried to, pulling its torso into what it thought a human stance should look like. But the angles were wrong, the symmetry too perfect. Then it did something that made every one of us recoil. It reached back toward the crack, as if signaling, like calling the others forward. Dozens of hands answered, pale gloves pushed up against the underside of the plate, dozens of helmets tilted upward through the void. Blackness swirled like a hive waking. Elson whispered, horrified, "It's bringing them up, all of them." My finger tightened on the trigger, but before I could fire, the creature nearest to us stumbled. Not from damage, from confusion. It turned its head, listening to something we could not hear, and raised one hand slowly, palm open, fingers trembling, like it was trying to remember what humans used hands for. Then a voice broke through the radio. Clear, urgent. Not distorted this time. "Rebel, close the door." It wasn't the ragged voice from earlier. It was a sharper one, stronger, human, living. Close the door now, or you'll lose the surface. The voice wasn't coming from the darkness. It was coming from behind us, out across the dunes. I whipped around, expecting another squad, reinforcements, command. Nothing, only heat haze, only silence. But the voice spoke again, closer this time. They can only mimic what they see. Stop letting them see you. Close the door. The creature reacted instantly, snapping its helmet toward the desert like it recognized the voice. And in that second of hesitation, 1 second bought by whatever force had spoken, I made the call that would either save us or end us. Suppress fire on the plate. Keep the others down. The squad unleashed everything they had, not aiming at the creature, but at the edges of the metal plate where hands were beginning to emerge. Rounds sparked and screamed against metal. Black vapor leaked upward like smoke from a cracked engine. The plate shuddered violently, like something beneath it was bracing against our fire. And then the creature turned back toward us, stepping forward with a speed it hadn't shown before. Too fast, too fluid. Its first step cracked frozen sand. Its second left no print at all. Its third brought it within reaching distance. And the darkness inside its helmet leaned toward me like it was smelling my breath. I drove my boot into its chest, shoving it backward onto the plate. The metal groaned under the impact. A chorus of hands surged upward from the crack, grabbing at the creature as if dragging it back down. But the creature resisted, pushing upward with unnatural strength, caught between two forces, one pulling it out, one dragging it in. The radio blasted again with that same urgent voice. "Rebel, now, close it." I grabbed Hensley and Elson by their vests. On me, we forced that plate shut. The squad moved without hesitation, rushing toward the impossible doorway with every ounce of fear and fury they had left. The creature screamed, a hollow, wordless sound that vibrated the metal like a weapon, and the dozens of hands beneath it clawed higher, trying to escape. In that moment, standing at the edge of a hole leading to nowhere a human mind was meant to understand, I realized the truth. Whatever had taken the Marines in 1972 hadn't finished. It had been waiting, learning, and today, we had woken it up. The metal plate bucked like a living thing under our boots, flexing upward, as if an enormous lung beneath the sand was trying to inhale. Every instinct in me screamed to run, but there was no running here. If this thing broke open, if those hollow replicas climbed all the way out, the desert wouldn't just swallow a squad, it would swallow everything. The creature we had forced back onto the plate thrashed in a jerky, unnatural rhythm, its limbs snapping at angles no human body could endure. Dozens of pale, empty gloves clawed up from the widening crack, grasping at its uniform, tugging it downward with frantic urgency. The creature fought back with impossible strength, its movements smooth and coordinated, too precise, too practiced. It was learning us, copying the way we resisted, the way we braced our weight, the way we moved under pressure. "Push," I shouted, my boots digging deep as we slammed our weight against the bending metal. The plate groaned, steel straining like the door of a sinking ship. Hensley braced beside me, face locked with terror and determination. Elson planted his rifle against the edge and shoved with everything he had. Even with all of us pressing, the plate barely budged. Something beneath it, many somethings, was pushing back, hard. A freezing draft poured from the crack, swirling around our legs like hands made of winter. Vapor spread outward in sickening tendrils, crawling up our boots, clinging to our uniforms, trying to pull heat from our bodies. My breath fogged, my fingers numbed. The Kuwaiti sun hammered down overhead, yet the basin felt like the inside of a glacier. The creature on the plate let out a sound that didn't belong in any world we understood. A hollow, stretched wail, like a human scream replayed backward through a broken speaker. Its helmet twisted toward me, that empty darkness inside reaching, grasping, wanting. It lunged. I slammed my shoulder into it. The impact rang through the metal, like a bell struck by lightning. The creature staggered, not from pain, not from damage, but from confusion, as if the concept of resistance was new to it. The hands beneath the plate seized their chance. They clawed upward, grabbing the creature's legs, its arms, its gear, dragging it deeper into the crack. It flailed, kicking out violently, and each movement pushed the plate up against our weight, threatening to throw us off balance. "Sergeant," Hensley gasped, "we need more leverage." He wasn't wrong. Our raw strength wasn't enough. Whatever lived beneath that plate was ancient, patient, and strong enough to hold the door open against 4 trained soldiers. I scanned the basin through the haze, looking for anything we could use. Then I saw it, our Humvee parked at the top of the slope, engine still running, waiting for us like a loyal dog ready to be ordered into fire. "Elson," I shouted, "get the vehicle, bring it down slow and push against the plate." He hesitated, eyes wide with fear. "Sir, if I drive over that crack, you will not break through. But if we don't close this door, everything else will." He nodded once, bolted across the basin, boots kicking up sand in sharp, frantic bursts. The creature twisted toward him instantly, sensing movement, sensing escape. Its arms snapped upward like a whip, gloves stretching outward as if pulled by invisible strings. I grabbed its wrist, if that hollow shape could even be called a wrist, and slammed it back down against the plate with all my weight. The limb writhed, recoiling, then stiffening, then imitating the exact grip I used. It was learning even faster now. Hensley snarled, "Stop watching us! Stop copying us!" As if responding to his anger, the creature's helmet snapped toward him, tilting at that eerie too-far angle. A faint echo rippled through the basin, repeating Hensley's words in a whisper that didn't come from any throat. "Stop copying us." The mimicry was getting sharper. The Humvee roared to life, engine revving as Elson maneuvered it down the slope. The tires skidded in the sand, but he kept control, swinging the vehicle toward us with precision only adrenaline could fuel. "Brace!" I shouted. Hensley and I pressed our bodies flat against the plate surface, ready to transfer force. The Humvee's front bumper slammed into the raised edge with a heavy metallic crunch. The impact jolted the entire basin, dust rising in a thick wave. The plate buckled downward, an inch, then another, then 3. The crack shrank, the void beneath it narrowing like a throat closing. The creature screamed again, fighting with renewed desperation as the hands below yanked it deeper. But the others, the shapes waiting behind it, pressed forward harder. Dozens of helmets rose toward the crack, dozens of arms stretched upward, their movements synchronized, like a single mind controlling many bodies. They pushed in harmony, lifting the plate despite the Humvee's weight, despite our bodies straining against it. The vehicle's tires spun, digging into the sand. The metal rose another inch, then another. "They're coming through," Hensley yelled. I dug my fingers into the cold steel, feeling it vibrate beneath me, feeling the pressure of an entire lost squad pushing upward from a place that wasn't Earth. Then the radio clip to my vest ignited with that same urgent voice, sharper than before, closer now, as if the speaker stood right behind us. "Rebel, it is not a door, it is a breathing point. You must starve it." My blood ran cold. "What does that mean?" I shouted. Static. A long, tortured crackle. Then, heat. Oppose the cold. Force it back to sleep. Heat. The Kuwaiti sun, our engine, our exhaust. I snapped the thought together in a heartbeat. "Elson, gun the engine. Redline it. Give me everything." He didn't hesitate. The Humvee roared, pouring searing exhaust across the plate. The metal hissed violently as heat met unnatural cold. Steam exploded outward in a rising cloud. The hands beneath the crack recoiled. The creature on the plate spasmed. The void pulsed like a wounded animal. The plate dropped another inch, then slammed shut with a deafening boom, crushing the creature halfway through and severing whatever connection linked the many hands beneath. The crack sealed. The darkness vanished. The desert exhaled a breath it had held for decades. And the creature, the half that remained above, lay twitching on the sand, uniform spotless, helmet empty, black dust leaking from the severed edge. But the radio whispered one last time, soft and hollow, like a warning from a dying world. "Rebel, it will wake again, not here, not now, but somewhere." The basin stayed silent for a long time after the plate sealed. Too silent, like the desert itself was waiting to see if we had actually stopped whatever was beneath it. The sun returned with a vengeance, baking away the frost, burning through the last tendrils of unnatural vapor. But the cold inside me didn't leave, not even when the creature's severed half finally stopped twitching. It lay on the sand like a discarded uniform, filled with shadows that had nowhere left to hide, black dust leaking from its edges, evaporating grain by grain under the desert heat, until only a thin imprint of its outline remained. Not bone, not blood, not human, just an echo of the thing that had tried to crawl into our world wearing the memory of a Marine like a mask. Elson stood beside me, shaking so hard he had to brace his rifle against his leg to keep from dropping it. "Sergeant," he whispered, "what was that? What were they?" I wanted to give him an answer, a definition, a name, but all I had was a truth that tasted like metal in my mouth, something that was never meant to step into daylight. The wind finally returned, just a small gust, but after what we had seen, even that felt like a warning. Hensley dragged the half-creature farther from the plate with the tip of his boot and stared down at it like he was afraid it might start screaming again. "Those weren't ghosts," he muttered. "Weren't copies. Weren't anything real." He paused, swallowing hard. It was like something hollow tried to pretend. We moved fast after that, packed gear, marked coordinates, photographed everything with analog backups since our digital devices were fried beyond recovery. The metal plate was cold now, dead cold, and completely smooth. No crack, no seam, no sign it had ever opened, or that anything had ever clawed at it from below. If we hadn't seen it with our own eyes, we'd have thought the entire thing was sunstroke. But the footprints around us, those perfect 1972 Marine prints, remained sharp, preserved, impossible. They circled the basin like a frozen patrol pattern, now intersected by the half-melted outline of the creature we killed. If that even counted as killing. Elson crouched near one of the deeper prints, brushing the sand with reverence. "They walked here," he said, voice thin. "Real men, real Marines. They stood right here before," he looked toward the plate. "Before whatever that thing was took them." I felt an ache in my chest I couldn't swallow down. The Marines from 1972 had never left this desert. Their bodies, their souls, their identities, consumed, remade, called out by something buried beneath the dunes. Something that had been waiting for a way up, something we had nearly unleashed. When higher command arrived, a convoy of blacked-out Humvees that moved like shadows, none of the officers looked surprised. That was the first red flag. The second came when the man wearing rank with no name tag stepped up to me and asked one single question. "Did anything breach? Not what happened, not are your men injured, just that." I stared at him, heart thudding with anger. "We contained it. We closed the plate. Half of one creature got through." He nodded once, as if that matched expectations. "Show me." We led them into the basin, but the imprint of the creature was already almost gone. Black dust burned away to nothing by the sun, leaving only a faint silhouette like something had lain there briefly before dissolving into the desert itself. The officer crouched, touched the sand, and nodded again. Residual trace. It did not sustain form. Good. Then he stood and snapped his fingers. Two men carrying sealed canisters began collecting samples with movements too expert to be improvisation. This wasn't new to them. This wasn't shocking. This was routine. I stepped forward. "Sir, what was that? What happened in 1972? Why did those Marines disappear?" His eyes met mine with a coldness that belonged underground, not under a desert sun. "Sergeant," he said quietly, "this basin is classified beyond anything you have the clearance to imagine. Your squad will be debriefed separately. You saw a geological anomaly. You will report that, nothing more." My fists clenched. That was no anomaly. He smiled in a way that made the heat feel hollow. "The ground beneath you is older than your nation, older than your wars. It opens sometimes. It calls sometimes." The 1972 teen answered. "You nearly answered today." He leaned in slightly. "And next time someone answers, we may not be able to close it." Before I could respond, two men approached us with black folders. Inside each was a document we were ordered to sign. A statement describing the event as a seismic mirage, a heat-induced geologic shift, and a false perception under duress. Standard military smokescreen language, lies wrapped in protocol. I refused at first. Then another man, older, silent, wearing an expression carved out of stone, said just 3 words, "This is containment." And suddenly, after what I had seen beneath that plate, the word took on a whole new meaning. We were escorted back to our Humvee, ordered not to speak of the incident outside immediate command channels, and told that the basin would be sealed off permanently. But as we drove away, I glanced back one last time. The officers were standing around the metal plate, setting up equipment, placing instruments, testing the ground like they expected it to breathe again. And the wind, just for a moment, shifted strangely, spiraling into the basin like something beneath the sand was exhaling. We're listening, we're waiting. That night, long after the debriefs ended and the silence tightened around us like a noose, the radio in our barracks crackled once, just once, with the faintest whisper. Not a voice, not words, just the sound of boots, marching, slow, hollow. Coming from nowhere, coming from below, then quiet. We never returned to that basin. Command scrubbed our patrol route. The area was marked permanently restricted, and the report we turned in was buried deeper than the plate itself. But I know this much, and I will carry it until the day the desert breathes again. The Marines from 1972 never left that place. Something else walks in their prints, and the door we closed was not the only one. What happened in that Kuwaiti basin never made the news, never entered the official logs, and never reached the families of the Marines who vanished back in 1972. But out there, under a sun that burns everything clean, something still waits beneath the sand, something that remembers the men it took, something that learned to walk in their boots, something that was almost unleashed again. If you've got theories about what lives under deserts, what ancient places breathe through the earth, or what those footprints truly belong to, drop them in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, more classified encounters, more military horror, more truth that wasn't meant to leak, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next mission they tried to bury. This is Captain Rebel. Stay sharp, stay awake, and whatever you do, don't follow strange footprints in the desert.